It is the day after Valentine's Day, and we are going to delve into something we haven't done yet. A little bit more on
codependency.
Or relationship addiction, however you want to look at it. So here we go to dive in. We've got a few expert readings and some definitions. Nobody completely agrees on what codependency is and what it isn't, so we're interested in your opinions too. Here we go.
Real life for real families. Hurts, habits, and hang-ups happen in every family.
Jerry and I are here with tools to help you trust God, clean house, and tell the truth to ramp up the joy in your family.
You have what it takes.
It's time to become sober on purpose for His purpose. One of the first people who is really recognized with coining the term of codependency almost 30 years ago is Melody Beattie with Codependent No More. I'm going to give you a little outline of her take on what codependency is in her book, Codependency, Beyond Codependency, and Getting Better All the Time. She's since written quite a bit and has a lot to say on the subject. A lot of us grew up with her. Here is Robert Subby, a codependency and child recovery professional who talks about codependency being an emotional, psychological, and behavioral condition that develops as a result of an individual's prolonged exposure to a practice of a set of oppressive rules. They may have grown up with this, they may have married into it, it may have been pressed upon them by society, but these are the rules that he talks about being something that creates codependency. Don't feel or talk about feelings. Don't think. Don't identify. Talk about or solve problems. Don't be who you are. Be good, right, strong, and perfect. Don't be selfish. Take care of others and neglect yourself. Don't have fun. Don't be silly or enjoy life. Don't trust other people or yourself. Don't be vulnerable. Don't be direct. Don't get close to people. Don't grow, change, or in any way rock the family's boat. These rules probably weren't posted or pasted on the refrigerator next to the clean up your room and take out the garbage, but they might as well have been. The other messages included in this are, I'm not lovable, I don't deserve good things, and I'll never succeed. Codependency is about the ways we have been affected by other people and our past. So that's a short definition of codependency. If you find yourself in some of those things or all of those things, that lets you know that there might be some areas where you need to look and work on. Codependency, in my mind, is also this need to control or to be overly involved in somebody else's life. And often that's to shut down your own issues, because if I'm busy controlling you, I don't have time to control me. So codependency is about meeting others' needs instead of yours, because if you're taking care of other people, you don't have time to take care of yours. But then what happens when you take care of somebody else?
They have resentment a lot of times. It depends on how you're, when we talk about overtaking care of, what characteristics are we describing specifically? I mean, I think they become dependent on the taking care of as well, maybe furthering the codependence into another person. I'm pretty dependent on you making me lunch. I don't know that that's necessarily a bad thing.
Codependency starts with a non-reciprocal. If I was making you lunch and I did everything for you and there was no reciprocal relationship in there, then it would be a very codependent function.
Are you saying that I reciprocate?
We have a division of labor in what we do. You go earn the money and I make the lunch.
I love it when you quote Adam Smith.
How am I quoting Adam Smith?
Well, that was from The Wealth of Nations, the first time I ever heard of the division of labor being touched on. But that makes sense. What would be a form of unhealthy codependence then?
Well, a lot of this, as I read, starts in childhood. It is the need for survival. We often do this. So codependency is different from interdependency. Interdependency is what we were talking about earlier. And we all need to be interdependent. Paul talks about it quite a bit in the communities and the churches that he is planting, that they need to share, they need to provide for one another, that they need to be in Christian fellowship with one another. But he admonishes Corinth for the wealthy taking all the love feast before the poor get there. So intradependence means that everybody is contributing what they can. They're pulling their weight. They're making sure that they are part of the contributors and part of the takers in a relationship. Codependence means with, to be dependent on someone else. So in my own case, it is a matter of if you're not happy, then I'm not happy. You control my feelings, which is very unhealthy. I am separate from you. I'm a separate entity. You are unhappy. That makes me unhappy. That makes the whole family unhappy at that point.
That's right. When mom's not happy, nobody's happy.
So in childhood, how this is affected is often the child feels they need to please, or they have to pick up a parental role and make sure that everything runs smoothly so that nobody gets angry or that nobody gets depressed or there's not somebody who is checking out because family life is not running smoothly. So that whole list that I read earlier is about often what the child hears. It can be in a marriage. It can be in a coworker relationship. Codependency can happen in many, many different places. And what happens is the child develops coping skills. So if it is always better to keep mom happy and not yelling, then the child will begin to make sure those actions happen. If you didn't do this for your mom or your sisters or this, that, and the other, or you didn't behave this way, then what was going to happen?
Well, I don't know if this is on point, but I definitely remember as a latchkey kid being told that, you know, we had to keep that between us, and that if anybody found out that I was coming home to nobody be in there, that could be trouble for that, which nobody wanted. Is that on topic?
That's kind of a codependent action. So when a codependent acts, they normally have ulterior motives. They are acting overtly, trying to get something else, which often frustrates them if they can't get it. And what they do often hurts, and it doesn't work. So it's passive aggressive, or it could be aggressive in the sense that if I want to feel good about how my house looks, I may come in and have a tantrum and get everybody motivated to move and to get things cleaned up so that I can feel comfortable in my own house, because my house reflects who I am. Because if somebody walked in and found this mess, then I'm an evil person. So there's a really ulterior motive for that. And the problem is it doesn't work. It keeps everybody frustrated. It doesn't keep the house clean. And I just get angrier and angrier. So that's a big piece of codependency, is that you're often going in a circumlocucious way to create the outcome that you want.
A circle wordy way? I know that in my professional career, I've had codependent characteristics. For example, today I'm pretty ill, and I'm concerned that tomorrow I'm going to still be pretty ill. But I'm going to go to work and do what needs to be done at the expense of my health and well-being, because A, there's nobody else to do it, and then B, I have a need to please my employer. And my question is this interdependency, or is this codependency?
I think that's a question, just like, and we'll talk more about codependency being an addiction, but just like addiction, everybody has to answer that for themselves. There are some suggested thought patterns when you're trying to figure out whether you are stuck in a codependent relationship. Is, do you have the ability to say yes or no and not feel shamed or guilted about it? Can you accept responsibility for yourself, or are you always taking responsibility for somebody else instead of taking responsibility for yourself? Are you constantly lying, manipulating, or angry after you have taken responsibility for somebody else? Are you trying to manipulate people into doing what you want without being straightforward? Those are all pieces of a codependent who needs to feel powerful because they are taking care of something. It gives them value, and it often leaves them not taking care of themselves. They step away from themselves so much that they get lost. This can happen in work. This can happen with a child. This can happen in marriage. This can happen in all kinds of relationships of where you get absolutely lost because that relationship becomes your identity.
I often think about the soccer mom who is always on the run, trying to do everything for her kids in an effort to feel that she's providing the best possible experiences and opportunities for her children. And then someday she just completely can't handle it anymore, either completely melts down or has a angry episode, doesn't feel that she's being compensated with gratitude for what she deserves for all her hard work. And I would assume that that would be an example of codependence.
It is. It's kind of like when you travel over and over and over for baseball and nobody says thank you and nobody helps you get stuff in the car and they're angry and complaining and they don't want to go. And it is not you who is deciding to go to baseball. You're doing this for your child. So that's a perfect example of setting yourself up in a codependent relationship. The other very significant piece of why we do codependent relationships is we are searching for love, significance, and security. And if we can't find that in a healthy way, if we're not offering that to the child in a healthy way, then we look for it in other ways. And that's where the child begins to pick up on, well, if mom is happy, then I get more. If dad is happy, then he pays more attention to me. No family is completely functional, but those are the things that we kind of throw out in the dysfunctional family, where one person, if there's been an addiction or heavy codependency, is kind of checked out and everybody is trying to please that person. So share with me how it feels when you feel like you need to take care of everybody and everything.
I'm not sure I really know. It just seems like the next right thing to do. I don't get hung up in it. I guess at family life, it comes a lot more natural to me. At work, it can be highly stressful, particularly when I've got a lot of people pulling on me in different directions and I want to please them all. And I'm limited to what my resources are.
So often a codependent they need somebody to save. They need some cause to save. They need some person to save. They need to produce some saving behavior. And when that cause or that situation or that person rights itself and wants to become a whole person in the relationship, then they really struggle. And that's one of the areas that we're focusing on in this podcast is not getting you sober, but what happens after sobriety. So tell us a little bit about what happened, or talk a little bit about what happened after you got sober and tried to come into the family as a full member.
Well, I felt that there was definitely quite a bit of tension between you and I as we began to explore what it looked like to have dual management of the household finances and planning and stuff. And I think we had different goals. My idea of rest and relaxation was home and with very little activities. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I felt that you wanted to be more socially engaged and bring in friends and do dinner parties and that kind of thing.
I do. In some senses, I think that's flip-flopping a little bit. What happened? I mean, we have this weird notion that getting married means you complete me. I think that's kind of silly. I think we've been through the ringer on that. That's not a truth for us.
No, it's not. Compliment me would probably be a better one. I think in our experience, marriage for us has become a way to help each other grow and kind of like God's plan to allow us the opportunity to work intimately with another human being and find a path through differences of opinion and differences of moral ideology and even dogma. We don't necessarily line up 100% even in our theological theory.
All right, we have just scratched the surface on codependency. There is a lot of literature out there. Having just dealt with Valentine's Day, and I do mean dealing with Valentine's Day. It's not always simple. It can be very painful for some people. We're going to continue on this codependency. We would love your questions, and I'm really excited because I am starting a new codependency support group. Me personally, I'm not starting one on the blog, and I'm looking forward to sharing what I find out from that group as well with all of you.
It's all about the steps.
It is all about the steps. So thank you for listening. You can find us over at thejoyousfamily.com. We are still looking for how many reviews on iTunes? We finally got on the boards.
Yeah, we just need 762 more reviews this month.
We're looking for 30 for the quarter. If we get 30 for the quarter, which is the end of March, we will do something special. And I haven't figured out what that is, but we will do something silly. We'll do a video. We'll do whatever you guys suggest. We just need 30 for the quarter to get ourselves up on iTunes. We finally have a rating. Thank you to all those people who gave reviews. So join us on thejoyousfamily.com. And I am also launching an Alexa flash briefing called Emotionally Sober Mind. Join me over there if you have an Alexa. Hook me up. I will look forward to talking to you, and hopefully Jerry will feel better.
Yeah, I've been sick through this whole podcast. I can't tell. I don't know if you can tell.
No, I'm going to edit it out.
Oh.
All right. Say bye.
Bye.
Hey, I just muted you.